Morning, folks. A short one today. So, I've been seeing, let me just adjust that a little bit. Holy crap, I'm two-toned. But I've been seeing a lot of recaps of the insanity that's happened during the COVID stuff. And a lot of things that have been, or were, either ignored or actively suppressed during the worst of the pandemic, we'll say. And when I'm talking about a pandemic, I mean a pandemic of fear. Thanks, government. But loads of statistics about survivability rate, various stories about classification. For example, people who died from obvious causes being ruled COVID deaths, all this sort of stuff. This has all been suppressed. Now there's a story about the dangers of giving the, I won't say treatment, I won't say vaccine, what word can I use? Trying to avoid YouTube striking here. The Pokey. We'll call it the Pokey. But trying to, a lot of stories rather about how giving the Pokey to underdeveloped individuals may be not such a great idea. That's the thing that's being suppressed now. There's been at least one study I've seen where it was the Australian Health Authority, if I recall correctly, has come out against the idea. It's a matter of public record in the Netherlands that their fertility rate suffered during the mandatory vaccination period. And if I catch a strike for repeating public record information, clearly something's very wrong. But the big issue I have with all of this is that YouTube, which should be aware that it is supplanting at least part of the mainstream news media as a source of information, they're not held to any sort of journalistic standard, obviously. Creators are expected to hold themselves to a journalistic standard, and many of us do. I try never to tell you guys anything I don't know to be true. And when I do, I will couch it in those terms. It appears, or this is what it seems to be happening. Things like that. But I don't consider myself a news source. If you come to me for your news, okay, I appreciate that. But go and vet everything I say, just in case. I try not to be wrong, but there's a lot of information out there, and I don't have a lot of time to do research on it. I don't focus on any particular topic outside of pop culture, and even there, don't take me as an authoritative source. I will give you advice on health, and I even say there, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to dispense any sort of, how to put it? I don't give you an educated opinion. I give you, I guess, an experience. or the benefit of my experiences. And I generally do couch it in those terms. Also, I want to point out the phrasing is I couch it, not coach. It's not coach. It's spelled with a U, not an A. You know who you are. But speaking of standards, standards are slipping for all sorts of things. Drag Queen Story Hour. What? No. And when someone tries to tell me that drag is not sexualized, it's a burlesque show. Okay? 15 years ago, drag was perfectly acceptable in an adult setting. Now, not so much. Okay. Then there's linguistic standards. People using the term hone in. It's not hone, it's home. You home in on something. Like a homing missile, not a honing missile. I'd like to see you hone a missile. That would be interesting. Take a sharpening stone to front end of a tomahawk. But all these standards slipping, yeah, these are small things to a lot of people, but there is such a thing as a snowball effect or a domino effect. 15 years ago, it would have been absolutely scandalous for a news show to make a typo, let alone an information error. Well, okay, we may have to go back further than 15 years, the news cycle being what it's been for so long. But in the race to be first, too many people are cutting too many corners, especially in the news. And to return to the discussion of journalistic standards, it's not enough just to be accurate. You have to be precisely accurate. And if your English skills are not up to par, if you make the mistake of relying on spell checks or grammar checks or this Grammarly program, which, by the way, I've never used. Actually, no, that's wrong. I did try a free trial of it for about 10 seconds to discover that it actually tries to alter the tone of what you're saying. Go to hell, Grammarly. But more than anything, with slipping standards, the biggest issue I have is that it's not only that your standard is slipping, it's that the standard you can hold someone else to slides. And take police or any number of other authorities. Police now are expected to wear body cams. Do you know why? Because now we can't trust their word anymore. That might not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but I'm old school enough to believe that if you can't be held to your word, you can't ever be trusted. And we see over and over journalistic stories, articles, what have you, that are amended on the quiet, that are amended through deletion, which is worse. They don't just say, we need to issue a correction. They go to their webpage and they actually edit the article so that you never see the mistake they made. That's not a good idea. You should show people your mistakes so that they go, oh, well, these people are accountable, even if it's only internally to themselves. But by showing, for example, the Kyle Rittenhouse case is a good example. Kyle Rittenhouse was almost immediately labeled a murderer by a lot of people. And in the wake of the George Floyd situation, where everyone rushed to judgment, I won't say wrongly or rightly, but that should be obvious from my tone, but in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, because I had jumped to a conclusion during the George Floyd thing, I was less prepared to jump to a conclusion when this Kyle Rittenhouse thing came out. And a lot of the newspapers, or a lot of the news services, rather, that claimed he had killed black people, and there are still some that do, but a lot of these news services that claimed that 3 black people had been shot, or 7 or 12, all these sorts of things. This is indicative of what happens when you are in such a hurry to be first that you're not worried about being right. Or being accurate, rather. And a lot of these services, when more details started to come out, rather than say, oh, we need to issue a correction and actually put the correction below the mistake, or even hyperlink to the correction on the mistake, a lot of them simply went to their article, pulled the article off I'm simplifying it for my own terms, but they essentially pulled the article off the internet, rewrote it, and put it back, fixed, without ever showing the process that occurred. That's not good journalism. Good journalism, like a newspaper would have to do, would be to print a retraction or a correction. Now, a lot of services, because of what they said about Kyle Rittenhouse and what they said about Nick Sandmann before, are being forced to either pay out in court or apologize. With The View, very recently, that Turning Point USA thing with the neo-Nazis, or supposed neo-Nazis, I'll say, because I don't know the whole story there. I don't know what group it was that was protesting outside the event, all that sort of thing. But even with that situation, now the hosts of The View have been told, sorry, I used the wrong word there, hostesses. The hostesses of The View have been told, oh no, you have to go on air and apologize. Make a correction. It's made publicly. It's made in such a way that it cannot be avoided, that the mistake is already out there. But if this had been an online article, you could have gone in, pulled the article, put the new one back. Sure, there would have been some record, but a lot of regular readers of that particular service, we're assuming for online content, would have been completely unaware that there had ever been a change made. We need a new category for lying, because that's a lie by editing, a lie by remission. No, that wouldn't be the right word. But it's not omission, really, because they didn't omit anything. They edited something, post hoc edit, which wasn't something people were capable of doing before the internet. You couldn't tell a lie that way before. You could try to gaslight people by saying, no, I never said that, if you've managed to, hide the evidence or what have you. But now you can't do that. Or, sorry, now you can actually make the evidence more or less disappear, assuming no one has archived your initial statements. Which is where a lot of people on Twitter get fucked. Beautifully. Sorry, I got a notification there, but I'll ignore it for now. But with Twitter, as I was saying, you will see that people make a mistake, and rather than own up to that mistake, they will either delete the tweet, hoping that no one archived it or screenshot it, or they will protect their tweets from people that they perceive to be hostile. Okay, so now you've gone into what should be a public town square and gone, I'm going to talk to people who want to hear what I have to say. The rest of you don't listen. I really hope that doesn't end up being the thumbnail. I'll catch a strike for that for sure. But I don't understand why people think this is acceptable behavior on any level, let alone a professional journalistic level. If you're in journalism, your first duty should be to the truth. When you don't tell the whole truth, even by a mistake, you should make it clear that you didn't. I tried to do the same thing, whether it's in my personal life or doing this. If I discover that I've told you guys something that I later find out to be absolutely wrong, I will try my damnedest to make sure you're aware of it. Other than that, I don't think I have a lot to say today. So please like, share, subscribe, comment. If you feel generous, there is a donation link. I'm in the process of figuring out a better timing for my live stream, mostly because of ISP problems. And because I have to reschedule because of the Sultans. Sultans of Shadilay, 10:30 Newfoundland time, Saturdays in the morning. I know there's no reason there should be mornings on the weekends, but what are you going to do? Other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well and continue to do well. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.